This is Isn't It a Goddamn Shame? Where we put our shame on blast to unchain ourselves from our shadows and finally fly free. Hey, I'm Sarah, a Virgo sun, Cancer moon, and Aries rising. I'm also an ex-evangelical Christian, a current mental health therapist, a Reiki energy healer, hypnotherapist, big girl, and in recovery from people pleasing who has over 12 years of experience in deconstructing and reconstructing from religion. I'm on a journey to the true and radical self-love that we need to heal ourselves with the hope of co-creating a better future for ourselves and future generations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Isn't It a Goddamn Shame? With your host, Sarah. You may or may not know me from my Instagram and TikTok, which is at Abundance Sarah. You can get the link in the show notes. Please feel free to follow me on at Abundance Sarah and also the podcast page, Isn't It a Goddamn Shame? Let's get into today's episode. So today is all about me, why I'm here, why I started this podcast, and my history. So in order to explain my history and why I'm here, we have to kind of rewind a bit and go back to the beginning. So I grew up in a very religious household. We were identifying as Protestant Christians. I attended church since I was born. I would go to Sunday school on Sundays. I would go to church service on Sundays. Then I would go back to church in the evenings for Awana, which is a Bible club. And then I went to Christian school Monday through Friday. I went to Christian school for my entire schooling from pre-K all the way up to senior year in high school. And I graduated from a private Christian school in South Jersey. And our graduating class was probably about like 45 kids big or small, I guess, depending on how you see it. So I went to Christian school my entire life. Every Friday night was youth group night. That's when I would go back to church on Fridays and I would socialize with my friends there and then also continue to be a good Christian girl. So this was pretty much the way of life for me all the way up until my second year in college. The reason it took me to my second year in college was because my first year in college, I had gone to a Christian college because my parents requested. No, they didn't request. They pretty much said, this is what you're doing. You're going to a Christian college. All your sisters went to a Christian college, and so you are going to as well, whether you like it or not. The literal words from my dad when I asked him if I could go to an art school was, no, you cannot, because then you'll turn into a lesbian. No joke. So yeah, went to a Christian college for my first year of college and I really fucking hated it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was majoring in music performance, so singing. And I was lost, and this was not the major for me. This was not the college for me. This was not the state for me of Massachusetts, as somebody who grew up her entire life in New Jersey. So after that first year, I decided to move back home, and I attended a local college, Rutgers University, to take some like part-time classes and to figure out like what the fuck I was doing with my life. Surprisingly, my parents agreed to this and, they didn't like it. And I moved back home and I spent that year taking classes in theater classes. I took art classes. I took photography classes. I took classes in things that I hadn't really had a lot of chance to explore. in high school because my high school was small and we didn't have a lot of resources. And I also took that time to work, and I also took that time to party because theater kids, they can party. So this was my first taste into the rebellious life that I never thought I was going to lead, that I was so happy to be in once I was there. Even if I was lost, even if I was sloppy, it was still freeing. So after that year, living at home, sneaking out to go to parties in Philly, sneaking back home at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. One time I was almost late to come back for church the next day because I still had to go to church while I was living with my parents. That was my year of starting to explore. And then I transferred again to Montclair State University. I actually had to keep this a secret for a while from my parents. I took it upon myself to I applied for their costume design and theatrical production design degree. And I had driven up to North Jersey, which is about an hour and a half from where I live in South Jersey, to do an interview with the program director and tour the campus, and didn't tell my parents one bit of it until it was sealed and ready to go that I wanted to go there. So I told them, I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to study costume design, and this is one of the best schools to do it at. And this is where I'm going to go. And at that point, I don't know if they felt like they didn't really have like a say, or they had seen me like flop around for a while and they were just happy that I had decided on something. So I went to Montclair, New Jersey. I studied costume design took me 3 years to finish that degree because it was a pretty rigorous program. And finally, I graduated in 2014. I spent the summer in North Jersey and I did some design work. I lived with some friends. It was a lot of fun. It was also very hard. I was taking the bus everywhere. I was making minimum wage at like a grocery store working produce, and then having a little bit of time to devote to actual costume design, positions where I was doing like wardrobe and assistant design and things like that. And after that summer was over, I was pretty much broke and didn't have any leads on any more jobs. And I had to move back home again. So moving back home, I started waitressing and I fell into a pretty deep depression. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt lost. I had just spent all of this time, all of this money, all of this energy getting this degree, and it felt like nobody was going to pay me for my work. I was able to pick up some jobs here and there. I actually got like one paying job in Boston. So I had to go back to Massachusetts for that. And that took like so much goddamn work. It was not even worth like the little check they gave me. So there I was, waitressing, not doing much with my life, feeling super lost, super confused, super depressed and anxious. I started eating more. I started smoking more weed. I started drinking more. And I felt a lot of resentment and I felt a lot of anger towards my parents at this time. I wanted to be able to express to them the ways in which I felt, how they treated me, how they raised me, and how it hurt me. But when I tried to talk to them about it, I wasn't getting the same emotional vulnerability back that I was giving out, which left me feeling even worse and left me feeling distrustful in them, and being able to open up to them. And so at this point in my life, I felt like I had no other option. And I ended up moving out and moving in with a friend down the street whose parents were super open with me, super supportive of me, who listened to me. And they helped me get back on my feet. They helped me find a job as a behavioral assistant. Well, my friend helped me find a job as a behavioral assistant because she was in grad school at the time, and she was becoming a mental health counselor. Um, so I did this behavioral assistant job, and I didn't have a car. So her parents helped me get a car and figure out how to finance that, so that I could actually have some freedom, which I hadn't had. And after that, I have been working this job for a while that I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? And my friend's dad was like, yeah, what are you going to do next? He's like, you should go back to school. And that was like the last thing that I wanted to do. But I decided to just go for it and go back to school and become a mental health counselor, just like my best friend. She was very inspiring to me. I was in therapy at the time. I'm still in therapy now, working through that resentment, working through that anger, working through not being able to accept things and working towards acceptance of things that I can't control. And after 3 years of master's school, I am here. I have applied for my license in the state of New Jersey. I have overcome a lot that I didn't even share yet. But that was like the crash course to how I got here and kind of my knowledge and experience in all of this. So why did I stop becoming a Christian? So one of the biggest, most impactful times for me where I started to question Christianity and the church was when my friend in high school came out to me as gay. And I remember really grappling with this and feeling so resistant to both what I had been taught and then also how I wanted to treat my friend, with the most empathy, kindness, and love. And there's a saying in my church, or at least like in like the belief system of my church and other churches that are similar to it. The saying is, you love the sinner, you hate the sin. This just didn't feel right to me with my friend. And how am I supposed to hate your sin? How can I even call it your sin? What is sin? You know? I started to really start to pull these things apart that I had never pulled apart before. I was indoctrinated into this belief system. And I remember sitting there at the age of 5, having someone lead me through the prayer of, I forget what they call it. It's pretty much like the salvation prayer. You pretty much say like, dear Heavenly Father, like, please, like, come into my heart. I accept you as my Lord and Savior. I want to live as a Christian, and I ask that you forgive me for my sins, and I commit to you, pretty much. I said this at the age of 5. Huh. 5 years old. How am I supposed to know what I believe at 5 years old? And how am I supposed to make that life-changing decision at 5 years old? I don't know. Someone else tell me, please. But here I am, now a young adult, and I have my friend talking to me, coming out to me, expressing his pain, expressing how he's felt having to keep this in, expressing just how hard it's been on him. And I had a part in that, and I hated that. This is what's really started to crack me open, slowly but surely, and come to realize this church, this religion, this faith system, this whole behavioral system is not for me. It's not for me. A big part of realizing that, and then also being able to come to accept, like, why was I even born into this family? Why was I even like a Christian to begin with? A big realization came to me through having a reading with a person who was able to see a past life of mine. And in this past life, I was a witch. I lived in the woods. And since then, I've been able to connect with this past life self more through hypnosis and meditation. I've seen myself living pretty much isolated, away from society, scared, unable to share myself, working very closely with earth and the elements and nature, but also living a very secluded and hermited lifestyle, where it was just me. And I had to do things like fight off wild animals by myself. Um, I had a lot of elemental magic within me that I couldn't share with anybody else. Um, and then ultimately I was found out by the townspeople, and I was brutally murdered. Um, and it's very sad. It's very tragic. I can like still feel that pain. And uh I'm working with a close friend on that Akashic record of mine, and being able to keep the things that help, but get rid of the things that don't. And that's one of them. So, because of this witch life, I came into this life looking for the other side of things, the religious side of things, and being able to make a choice for myself. What was it that I believe? What is it that I accept? And what I came to realize in this life is that, I've seen the other side of things, and that side of things isn't great. It's not great. It's not working for me. It's not working for a lot of people, right? Honestly, like growing up, one of the worst things that was like the worst thing somebody could do was turn their back on God, turn their back on the faith, turn their back on Christianity and the church, right? That was like the worst thing that you could do. They put so much time and effort into hammering it into us of how to not be curious, to not question, how to defend the Bible, how to explain to somebody about the Bible and defend it and make a case for its validity. It was so ingrained to me. It was ingrained in me that like the Christian good girl was like chef's kiss. Chef's kiss is the Christian good girl. Even above the Christian good girl is a missionary, right? And I'm actually going to be getting into that with my cousin in the next episode. What was that like for both of us to see missions and missionary work and her experience in missionary work? But that was the pedestal, that was the achievement, that was the goal. So I was literally given a gift at graduation from my Christian school. The book was called How to Stay Christian in College. They were so worried that we wouldn't carry this with us. And I understand now why they were so worried. I understand now how people get so wrapped up in this. And I understand why my parents raised us the way they did. Because when you believe something like this, that's so black and white, so cut and dry with no room for gray area, and you start to wrap your identity around this black and white belief, it becomes like a moral part of you that you feel that if you don't share this with others and help them achieve what you have achieved and believe, then you've failed in some way, because it's your responsibility to make sure others come to this belief as well. Not for this life, but for when we die, because of heaven and hell, right? It all came back to the eternal damnation of souls. And that's pretty heavy to put on a 5-year-old, you know? And I put that pressure on people as well. I truly did. I'm going to out that part of me because I find a lot of shame around that. And I know I didn't know better at the time. And I know that's what was like told to me was like the goal. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I did some damage to other people as well through this. So one of the things I come back to is every summer, I would commit my time to the church, and we would do missionary work. And we would, one of the things we do for missionary work was we'd all get in the van with our suitcases and we drive over the bridge to Philly. And there was this school that was rented out to us to stay in for a week. we would literally sleep on the floor of classrooms. The smart ones, like me, would bring an air mattress, and the others would suffer on their sleeping bags on the cold, hard floor. Oh, gosh, we're just such good Christians. And we would minister to little kids in Philly on the streets. What we would do, we each had teams and we each had a block, and we would prepare out lessons. We prepare songs and games, have posters with the songs on them. And we would have snacks, and we would have prizes, and we would go to our block in Philly, and we set out our tarp, and we set all our stuff out, and then we would go door to door, and we knock, and we say, hey, we're so-and-so, we're from this church, and we're doing a street VBS today. So if you have any kids that want to come out and sing some songs, play some games, get some prizes, come on out and we'll have a good time. And we did this all week, Monday through Friday. And the goal was to see to see how many people we could get to accept Jesus into their hearts and become saved. Like, that was the goal. And we would literally come back to church on Sunday, and there'd be part of the announcement to be like, like, all of our teenagers came back from the Philly ministry this weekend. Let's give them all a round of applause. And, this many people were saved during that time. Let's give a round of applause for all the people that were saved. Hallelujah, praise Jesus, yay, literally. And I just look back, and I'm going to share some of these pictures of myself on the Instagram for Isn't It a Goddamn Shame Instagram. So please stay tuned and follow me on there so you can see some gold pictures of Sarah from circa 2000s, teaching to these Black kids in Philly. All they wanted was some free food and some free prizes, that's all they wanted. Why couldn't we just give them that? Why did we have to add on all the extra bullshit, right? Like, why? And it was all around this belief that we must save their souls. It's really toxic. It's really problematic. And I do still feel bad for doing that. Even if my intention was in the best of places, I still don't feel right about having that ulterior motive around coming to hang out with some kids who are not as privileged as me, who suffer racism, who suffer microaggressions and macroaggressions, and suffer from impoverishment. And here I am trying to get them to believe the same thing as me. Oh my God. So that is one of the things that I feel shame about till this day, that I'm trying to accept and out that part of me, in hopes that I can start to forgive myself and accept that part of myself more and more as I continue my healing journey. And another big piece of my my resistance. So this was while I was still deeply, deeply in it, during high school. So during high school, I was on my school's worship team because I'm also very much into music. I love singing. Honestly, the worship part, which was the time where we sang songs of church and school and youth group, was my favorite part, because I love to sing, right? That's where I learned to sing, was in the church. That's where I learned to harmonize. Nobody taught me that. I learned that. I taught myself that. So here I am. I went away for a retreat with my school. The first part of the retreat was me being on the worship team for the junior hires. I was also a Bible study leader, a group leader with the younger kids, meeting for Bible study together and praying each morning before we went out and did our activities. Then the second part of this trip was then me being with my classmates and at the retreat with other people, adults leading us now. You see how we all pass that down to each other? I, in high school, pass it down to the junior hires, and the adults pass it down to me. It was all just very much structured like that for a reason. So here I am. Now I'm receiving the messages. Now I'm sitting in the seats listening to the speaker, and the speaker has shaped his entire message and sermon for the retreat weekend about pornography. And I remember sitting there in worship with my hand up, because that's what you do when you're a good Christian girl, a good Christian boy, is you raise your hand in praise to show just how much in it you are. It feels very much like Reiki, because I like do that now with Reiki in a way to send energy out of my palms to the person. No, this is sending energy to God and praising Him. I'm sitting here and I'm singing and I'm crying, and it's turning into almost like a weeping, because past little Sarah felt so ashamed because she was watching pornography. What? Oh my God, you were watching porn? That's not what good Christian girls do. And you know what? Even more than just porn, guess what kind of porn it was? It was lesbian porn. Oh my God, that's a big no. So I'm sobbing, feeling so guilty, feeling so ashamed, saying, Lord, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for my sins. My sins are so great. Oh my God. Like, save me, forgive me. Pouring out my heart in my head to God. I felt so bad. And I felt like an imposter. I felt so regretful and shameful and guilty for something that was so natural. Like, how natural is it for a teenager to explore their sexuality? So natural, right? How natural is it for a teenager to look up? It was probably like, it was softcore porn. Let's be honest. It was softcore porn at this point, because Sarah still hadn't discovered the big websites for the real shit. Okay. We're still like on like the little like YouTube and like movies shits. Are you kidding me? That's what that was the worst I was doing. That was the worst thing I was doing. Oh, and masturbating. Oh my God. Oh my God. How dare you? Isn't it a shame? Don't you feel ashamed of yourself? And I did. I felt super ashamed. So much so that I felt so scared that I was a lesbian, because I knew how my parents felt about that. As I mentioned before, when it became time to talk about going to college and I brought up art college, the first thing that was brought up was, no, you'll become a lesbian, as if it's something you become, because that's what we thought. But you became it. It wasn't that you were it, you became it, and you chose it, and you're sinning because of it. So that's a lot to put on a little kid. It's a lot to put on a teenager. It's a lot to put on a young adult. It's a lot to put on an adult. It's a lot to put on anybody, right? And yet this is what people thought was the right way, and they thought they were doing good. And at the end of the day, even if the intention was good, it doesn't make it right. It does not make it right. So here I am as an almost 31-year-old talking to you, sharing these stories with you. And I will be sharing and interviewing people about their experiences with the church, their experiences with spirituality, their experiences in shadow work, uncovering those parts of themselves that they're shameful about, and being able to put them out into the world and reclaiming themselves and saying, yeah, I felt shame about this. I might still feel shame about this, but I am going to own that. I'm going to accept that. And I'm not going to let it control me and what I do any longer. So that's the beauty of what we're doing here. I hope you enjoyed listening today. I'm so excited to share more. I'm so excited to dive into more things. I will be doing a collective tarot reading right now. This is going to be a reading that spans time and space. So if you're watching this on the day it's launched on 8/21/2022, it's going to be true then. If you don't watch this till next year in August of 2023, it's still going to be true. I'm asking Spirit to give me a message right now for anybody at any time watching this that's going to be healing for you. and going to be helpful for you. So let's get into that reading. Right now, I'm going to be using the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann. Here's the book. Okay. And let's ask Spirit, what is something that me, my watchers, anybody who watches this, listens to this, what is something that they need to hear that's going to be healing for them? They fell on the floor, which usually happens. I feel like that's just like further proof that it's a good message. And then let's ask for one out of this deck. This one's an oracle deck. It's called Eternal Light, and it's by Tony Carmine Salerno. Let's ask for one card message from this as well. I have to say one because if not, Spirit likes to give me many. And let's just make it detailed, right? Make it as detailed as possible. Okay. All right. So the first card we got in the tarot was the Seven of Wands. It's upright. Here's the picture. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch this. And right off the bat, it's talking about grounding yourself. It's talking about connecting with yourself, protecting your energy. And it's talking about feeling vulnerable and a sign to continue to share your ideas and self-expression. I'm going to read out of this book the message it came with, and then we'll move on to the next card, and then we'll come up with a nice summarization of the message here. Okay, Seven of Wands. Haters. They'll emerge only after you've made it to your perch, whipping their wands about and asking you to defend your accomplishments. Sometimes, competition emerges as a result of shining brightly in the world. If you are feeling attacked after sharing your magic, it is important to remember that others will likely want what you have, so stand up bravely and continue to do your beautiful thing. Mindfully call feelings of love and well-being into your body and create a protective bubble of energy around you. Remain synchronized and aligned with your bright vision and reject any low vibe, negative states that others may be pushing. You don't have to accept their opinion as truth, especially when they are vying for your position. Check to make sure you're acting in a way that is aligned with your highest values. And when you know you are, don't let anybody stop you from achieving your dreams. Here's a beautiful mantra to repeat to yourself if this rings true and you want to continue to reinforce this into yourself. I am deserving of this success, and I will bravely shine my light into the world. Yo, that is so powerful. I can't wait to do the summary, but here is the next card, the King of Pentacles. It came out in reversed. This is about overflowing material abundance, patience, determination. And then in the reverse, it's also about obsessing over riches, seeking status, greed, and need to balance the material with the spiritual. And here's a message from the book. Exuding warmth, the King of Pentacles welcomes you into his study for a heartfelt conversation about life. He's worked his fields, he's met his soulmate, found wealth, and now he looks out over his dream manifested as he offers you one of the tarot's most potent messages of forthcoming abundance and prosperity. The most important thing to be done is to enjoy it all, sweet seer. Enjoy every lesson, challenge, failure, and success. He reminds you to get clear on where you want to be, to plan and envision. There is manifesting power in the longing and so much joyful expansion as you bring your grateful potential into existence. Happiness happens when you do better than the last time. And in the pursuit of personal growth, allow yourself the extravagance of desire. The rest is a consequence of faith, steady habits, and the courage to cultivate enormous dreams. Dream your biggest light to life. Here's the mantra. I dream my endless potential into existence with steady desire and effort. Oh my God, guys, this message. Oh, I feel like this message is the exact message that aligns so well with why I created this podcast to begin with. It's about grounding into ourselves, knowing that we are protected and creating the protective space around us, but then also opening up our hearts, diving into that emotional vulnerability, diving into those insecurities and owning them and being able to accept them in order to move forward and put in that steady work, put in those good habits, put in that faith that we will achieve the thing that we are trying to bring about to our lives, whether it's happiness, wealth, success, healthiness, growth, healing, whatever it is that you are trying to bring in. We must first go into the ickiness, realize that people aren't going to always be happy with us, which is a huge thing for me because I'm a people pleaser. So that's a big part of me doing this is I know people aren't going to agree with everything I have to say, and that is okay. I am working on accepting that and realizing that you can have your opinion. I can have my opinion. We can see each other for who each other actually is and not what we want to think of them. And we can hold that space with each other and still accept the fact that we love each other, that we respect each other, and that we honor each other no matter if we don't meet eye to eye. Because that's where like that intolerance comes from in the church. That's where that intolerance comes with like in current day issues. It's so hard, and there is space for being able to put that boundary up. There is space for having that protectiveness of being like, no, you know what? It's not healthy for me to engage with you, so therefore I'm not, and that's okay. But at the same time, this is a relationship with somebody that you want to keep, that you want to cultivate, that you want to hold on to, then there's going to have to become a time where you say, you know what? I see you, I honor you, and I accept the fact that we just don't agree, and that's okay. We can still have a relationship. So here's the last card. It's the Eternal Light card. It says, message from your higher self. If I could, I would tell you every day to worry less, that you do not know how beautiful you are, that I love you, and you are perfect as you are. Reach for the stars, the ones glowing brightly within, just behind your doubt and insecurities. Embrace them and shine. So we need to embrace those insecurities. We need to embrace those shadows. We need to embrace those parts of ourselves that we're scared of in order to fully accept ourselves and be able to move forward into that future that we are trying so hard to bring about. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I hope that this was a blessing to you as much as it was a blessing for me as well. Please be sure to check out the show notes below for links to both my personal Instagram and TikTok page and the podcast's Instagram page. Please stay tuned for the next episode with Miranda, my cousin, who also grew up similarly to me, but also a few differences too. And we're going to continue to share stories and experiences from people and continue to bring about more healing for each other. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bring the funk back.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to Isn't It a Goddamn Shame with Sarah. Please check out the show notes to follow Sarah on Instagram at Abundant Sarah and TikTok at Abundant Sarah. Also, you can check out the podcast page at Isn't It a Goddamn Shame, all one word, on Instagram as well. Thank you so much, and be sure to check out Sarah's other offerings at the link in her bio. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.